The Visegrad Group recently celebrated its 30th birthday. For Poland, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary, the last 3 decades have been a time of increasing wealth and continuous growth. However, what is the Visegrad format's contribution to this? With the international balance of power shaking, can the V4 play a significant role in Europe? Let's find out. Welcome to the 20s Report.
This report is powered by NordVPN. Get 2-year plan with 73% off plus 4 months free at nordvpn.com/gtbt. The path to prosperity.
The name Visegrad comes from a small town in Hungary, where in 1335 AD, the leaders of Bohemia, the historical region of Czechia, Poland, and Hungary, agreed to create a new trade route, bypassing Vienna and guaranteeing easier access into Europe. Over 650 years later, eager to find their place in the post-communist reality, the leaders of Central European countries wanted to set the foundations of their country's integration with the rest of Europe. In the 1990s, the escape from the yoke of communism of the backwater economies of Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Hungary did not automatically mean that developed countries were willing to cooperate with them. Thus, the main challenge was to integrate into the Western European landscape. In order for this to happen, it was first necessary to join forces and build an internal dialogue, as in communist times, all such talks were held only with the participation and approval of Moscow. This is how the Visegrad Group was created, the first post-communist multilateral format in Central Europe. The group was established on February 15, 1991, between Poland, Hungary, and Czechoslovakia. In 1993, after the collapse of Czechoslovakia, both the Czech Republic and Slovakia joined the format as separate entities. The establishment of this informal group was guided by the goals of fostering mutual cooperation, improving regional security, and making up the distance between these countries and the much more prosperous nations of Western Europe. This was the overarching goal for all members of the V4, and these goals have largely been achieved. In 1999, Poland, the Czech Republic, and Hungary joined NATO, while Slovakia followed 5 years later. In 2004, all of the Visegrad countries joined the European Union. It was undoubtedly a successful time for all 4 economies. Over the last 30 years, Poland's average growth has been second only to that of China worldwide. The GDP per capita of each V4 country has grown at least 6 times, while GDP per capita measured by the purchasing power parity of Visegrad 4 is approaching the levels of Southern Europe. The Czechs have already overtaken the Spaniards in this respect and will soon overtake the Italians. However, is this success story the result of cooperation within the Visegrad Group? 30 years have passed since the group was founded, and it seems that now there are more divisions within Visegrad than unity. Why is this happening? The short answer is the lack of coherence of interests. Nevertheless, the issue is much more nuanced.
Different optics.
The V4 countries are neighbors geographically and come from a similar cultural group. As a result, some analysts look at these countries collectively, assigning them the same goals and challenges. However, the countries of the Visegrad Group also differ radically from each other in many respects, starting from potential, through economic issues, to strategic challenges resulting from geography. Poland, located in the Northern European plain, is larger than the other 3 countries taken together, both in terms of population and GDP. Moreover, it is the only one that borders Russia. The revisionist policy of the Russian Federation causes anxiety in Warsaw, which overlaps with the centuries-old history of wars and conflicts. All this means that for Warsaw, the policy towards the Russian Federation is often an overriding issue that determines foreign policy. The Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary, even though they were also on the eastern side of the Iron Curtain, have completely different optics. It is true that the Hungarians, Czechs, and Slovaks, just like Poles, are critical of the times of communism. However, they are not presently afraid of Moscow, and this is not even the main prism through which they view regional affairs. Geographically, they're separated from Russia by hundreds of kilometers of the buffer zone, and by high mountains, the Carpathians and the Sudetes, which reduce the sense of threat. They are not antagonistic towards Russia, and even use the Russian card to balance the influence of other regional players. And this is mainly practiced by Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. Needless to say that the Hungarian Prime Minister and his Slovak counterpart, Robert Fico, actively opposed EU sanctions against Russia after the annexation of Crimea in 2014. What is more, in the case of Hungarians, the pro-Russian card was also used during the expansion of the Pact's nuclear power plant. The Hungarians awarded the project to the Russian nuclear giant Rosatom without a tender, financing the project mainly with a $10 billion Russian loan. Nevertheless, the causes of current good Hungarian-Russian relations should be sought on a deeper level. Policy of Orban's government has its source in the Treaty of Trianon of 1920, a day of mourning for the entire Hungarian nation. It was then that the Hungarians, once part of the powerful Austro-Hungarian kingdom, were forced to give up 2/3 of their territory. This story is remembered in Budapest to this day, and Orban's balancing between the EU, Russia, and even China serves the hope that one day the effects of Trianon will be reversed. It would be highly incorrect to talk about it in the European Union, but supporting the revisionist policy of the Russian Federation is an indirect action in this direction. This results in distrust towards Hungary coming from Romania, Ukraine, or their partner in the Visegrad Group, Slovakia, where there is also a large Hungarian minority. All of this shows the diametrically opposing interests of Warsaw and Budapest, despite the natural friendship between the two nations. The attitude of the Czechs and Slovaks towards Russia lies somewhere between the attitudes of Poles and Hungarians. Prague and Bratislava often criticize Moscow's policy, human rights violations, and the aggressive attitudes of Russians in the East. However, criticism usually ends with diplomacy and does not affect the business sphere, which both sides want to deepen. This was no different during the recent diplomatic crisis between the Czech Republic and Russia. The Czech Republic has, for some time, been a popular destination for Russians. And this has had a positive impact on the revenues going to the Czech state budget. However, according to Yuri Pehe, former advisor to Václav Havel and a Czech analyst, such loose policy has led to the Czech Republic becoming a hub for Russian espionage in Europe. A recent investigation revealed that the Russian GRU, or military intelligence, was responsible for the explosion at the Verbietice weapons depot. The accusations of Czech counterintelligence were softened by the pro-Russian president Miloš Zeman, who suggested that an unintentional accident is still possible. Some Czech experts indicate that the Russian disinformation offensive contributed to the election of Zeman as president. Some time ago, Zeman was even threatened with impeachment on the charge of working for another power, but the charges were eventually dropped. As a result of the scandal, Prague expelled 70 Russian diplomats and embassy employees, but there were as many as 160 before the scandal. By comparison, the Czech embassy in Moscow accounted 27 people. In addition, Prague has excluded the Russian company Rosatom from the development of the Dukovan nuclear power plant, and expects Moscow to pay compensation of nearly $50 million. However, the payment would be tantamount to an admission of guilt, which the Russians are unwilling to do. This case will probably die a natural death. Although the prime ministers of the Visegrad Group issued a laconic statement of solidarity with the Czech Republic, more decisive steps, especially from the Hungarians, are, again, unlikely. The more so as the Czechs themselves do not oppose the flagship project that divides EU and V4 unity, namely Nord Stream 2. Prague benefits from the transmission infrastructure created for the first line of Nord Stream. The The Slovaks, after initial criticism, also softened their position, as part of the redistribution will take place through Slovak territory. Hungary, on the other hand, will benefit from another Russian gas pipeline that goes deep into Europe, namely the Turk Stream. Thus, Poland remains the only country of the Visegrad Group that directly opposes Nord Stream 2. The shadow that falls on the Visegrad Group countries comes not only from the east, but also from the west. Over the last 3 decades, the member states of the Visegrad Group have enjoyed strong economic growth. All 4 countries usually are among the top 10 of each trading partner. Yet the Federal Republic of Germany is by far the most important trading partner for each Visegrad country. The size of each V4 country's trade exchange with Germany is several times bigger for each. The V4 countries are usually subcontractors of the German automotive sector, and this trend is likely to continue to grow as the German giants consider shortening their supply chains and relocating production from China to Europe. Central European countries are the natural alternative for Berlin. Now, this provides Berlin with a huge economic leverage on each V4 capital. Even if the Visegrad Group countries were to overcome their differences and come up with a plan to create a united bloc of states that would be similar to France in terms of population and economic potential, Germany still has all of the hard arguments to break the cohesion of this potential creation. Pure economics means that relations with Germany are way more important for each Visegrad country than relations within the V4. Now, these relations are often tense, as was seen recently on the Prague-Warsaw line. The Czechs have appealed to the Court of Justice of the EU against the extraction of lignite at the Polish mine in Turów, located on the border with the Czech Republic. The main reason raised in the lawsuit is the negative impact of the mine on border regions, where the level of groundwater has decreased. As a result, the tribunal acceded to the Czechs' request and ordered the immediate suspension of extraction, which shocked the Polish side. The Turów mine supplies a nearby power plant, which is responsible for up to 8% of Poland's entire energy mix. The Poles started talks with the Czechs to withdraw the application, but this case shows that relations inside the V4 are often far from smooth.
Troublesome.
Nonetheless, there are topics on which the countries of the Visegrad Group have a similar view. Since 2004, the activities of the Visegrad countries have taken place within the European Union. For most of this time, the countries of Central Europe were unable to jointly develop and implement a specific initiative or project that would affect the direction of the Union. This partially changed in 2015 when the V4 countries rejected the EU's refugee relocation system. Hungarians were more affected by the migration wave from the south than other V4 countries, which is why this topic influences them most. The Polish, Czech, and Slovak governments shared similar concerns, and actually backed Hungary on the issue. Since then, in the perception of Western countries, the V4 countries have tended to be seen as troublesome. This troublesome nature of the V4 was also strengthened by the close cooperation of the current Polish and Hungarian governments within the European Union, where the difference in their stance towards Russia did not prevent the formation of an unofficial alliance. Warsaw and Budapest support each other in EU votes, each vetoing bills that could harm the other. The West accuses the Law and Justice Party and Fidesz, the political parties that currently rule Poland and Hungary, respectively, of undemocratic activities. Some attribute this feature to the entire Visegrad format, which irritates the Czechs and Slovaks. The perspective on the American presence in Europe is also changing inside the V4. Only Poland continues to firmly base its security on the Americans. The rest of the V4 is gradually losing interest in Washington due to a lack of a specific US policy for the region. Although members of the Visegrad Group still declare themselves as unwavering members of NATO, the perception of the alliance's goals and threats varies. The Hungarian perspective is mainly directed towards migration policy and balancing within Europe, using the Russian card. Poland, on the other hand, sees Russia as the main threat.
Good morning, everybody, and we want to turn to our breaking news out of Geneva. Today's historic summit between President Biden and Russia's Vladimir Putin, and there is
the recent repeal of the sanctions on Nord Stream 2 by Washington was a blow to the unwavering confidence of Polish policymakers in American guarantees. Therefore, from the geostrategic perspective, the Polish government seems to be starting to understand the need to strengthen its own strategic independence, which has long been suggested by bottom-up analytical centers based in Warsaw. Future multilateral formats or alliances will only survive in one case: having a common interest. Due to a series of destabilizing actions by the Russian Federation in the east, Poland's natural allies in the region over the coming years will most likely be Ukraine, Romania, Sweden, and Turkey. The Czechs and Slovaks, who share a close historical and cultural bond, will naturally focus on deepening cooperation with each other, but also with the governments of Bavaria, Saxony, and Austria, which are economically vital to them. Viktor Orban's Hungary will play a balancing act in search of opportunities to strengthen Hungary's position in the region and international arenas. With this lack of unity, the Visegrad Group is losing more and more of its importance. The basic goal of the group, to enable all members to join multilateral formats, especially NATO and the EU, was fulfilled almost 20 years ago. Since then, the V4 has been a forum for dialogue, with no real power to influence Europe.
This was the 20th report. If you like what we do, you can help us via Patreon. Also remember to like, comment and subscribe to boost the algorithms. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.